Welcome to Chapter 2, Lesson 3. We'll study the beginnings, the start of agriculture. Our lesson theme, by the end of this lesson we should understand that the development of agriculture brought about major changes to human society and the ways that people lived. Now, we're going to start in the Neolithic Era. Neo, meaning new. Lithic, as we've studied, means stone. This was about 10,000 years ago to about 5,000 years ago. Some of the newer inventions with Neolithic tools. They were able to polish stones to make saws and drills such as these. They could now use and make fire from scratch using flint and harder stones. In fact, this is a firestone that was cracked from the impact of a spark-creating flint. And the biggest change of all, people learned to make food. Agriculture is farming. So as the last ice age ended, temperatures warmed up, newer types of plants started to grow, and people started to eat these plants and settled where they grew. Then they realized that when they spat out the seeds, new plants grew where those seeds were. So they realized they could grow plants wherever they wanted. This was the Neolithic Revolution, the shift from food gathering or hunting to food producing or making. People learned that the best way to feed a lot of people was to plant only large grains or sweet fruit so that people would eat more. They could change plants to make them more useful. This is domestication. It's the process of changing plants and animals to make them more useful to humans. Take a look at a map of domestication around the Neolithic era. In Central America, they domesticated corn. In South America, in the Andes, Peru, potatoes, horses, cattle, sheep, and goats, all in the northern Black Sea coast and in the Middle East, as well as rice in Southeast Asia, wheat and barley here as well. Agriculture helped humans survive because farming is way less dangerous than hunting is. There are two ways in which animals were domesticated. First of all, animals were used to produce goods. Animals such as cows, sheep, and goats could be raised by humans to make things like clothing, or meat, or milk, which could make cheese. This is mutton chops, the food, not the hairstyle, and this is wool, which we still use today to make clothing. Animals could also be used to provide labor. They could use large animals like oxen, cattle, and horses to help carry goods long distances and pull very heavy tools like plows. As a result, you could make clothing from wool and domesticated skins instead of having to hunt plant animals and get them from wild plants, which may have poisonous defenses. People were able to settle in one place to grow plants instead of roaming around from place to hunt wild animals. Because they were able to stay in one place, populations grew and communities became towns. In fact, religious communities formed and they began to organize rituals and ceremonies to help with farming. Sites of these ceremonies were sometimes marked by large stones known as megaliths. Here's an example of one, Stonehenge, a very famous one out in England. Early cultures believed in gods and goddesses associated with animals or the four natural elements: air, water, fire, and earth. Now, some cultures also prayed to long-deceased ancestors, dead relatives, who they thought could speak to the gods. Hey, since you're up there, do you mind giving the air god a little bit of a word in for me? Think about Captain Planet here. Don't worry about heart, though. That wasn't a real element. All right, very quickly, fill in the blank questions. Historians call the shift from food gathering to food producing that occurred during the New Stone Age the blank. What was that called? Answer: the Neolithic Revolution. There should be your clue. New Stone Age. New, Neo, Stone, Lith, Neolithic Revolution. The process of changing plants or animals to make them more useful to humans is called domestication. Domestic meaning home. The development of blank changed human society forever. Agriculture. Growing food. Blank are huge stones that were used as monuments or as the sites of religious gatherings in prehistoric times. Huge stones, megaliths. Historians suspect that early people believed in gods and goddesses associated with the four blank.